Welcome to the OVerflow Worship Podcast, where we serve and support leaders so you can serve and support your local church.
Hey everybody, welcome to the OVerflow Worship Podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Olson. I still have not changed my intro. I keep thinking, I should start off my podcast a different way, but I don't know, this just rolls off the tongue. So here I am again. And I'm so excited because I have a really special guest today, and she is my very best friend in the whole wide world and so dear to my heart. And you're going to be so blessed to hear what she has to say. We're going to have a conversation just about life and identity, and I won't say any more because I don't want to spoil it. So without anything further, welcome to the podcast, Brooke Vasilko. Thank you for being here.
Hey, Andrea, thanks for having me. This is really special for me, too, because we have a lot of history and years of friendship together.
Yeah, it's so special. I've been looking forward to this all morning.
I know. And, if anybody needs some dirt on Andrea for years back, I can help fill anybody in on that.
That's true.
Really, we weren't really, bad kids. We probably ate chips and salsa too late, and then sang together.
Yes.
That was our mischief.
Yeah, it was really wild and crazy here, folks.
Yeah.
We usually fell asleep 10 p.m. That was...
Well, maybe you would fall asleep on me.
That's true. I would. I couldn't keep my eyes open. It's still true.
I love it.
My poor husband is like, you fell asleep mid-sentence again. Sorry.
It's a gift. Some people can't fall asleep that quickly. So
that's true. That is very true. Well, Brooke, why don't we kick it off, and why don't you just tell everybody a little bit about yourself? I mean, you and your husband were on the podcast a while ago, but it's been a while. So for new listeners or people who haven't heard that episode, introduce yourself a little bit.
Yeah, so my name is Brooke, and I live in Minnesota. I grew up in Minnesota my whole life. That's how I met Andrea. And I grew up with one brother, parents that were music teachers, grandparents that were music teachers. I went to school to be a music teacher, and I've gone through quite a few different seasons of life. And I met my husband, Paul, through a music ministry called CTI Music Ministries. We actually went to Singapore together and just really worked well together. He said it was a love at first sight for him, and he may have had to work on me a little bit. But we've been married now for 11 years, and he is the lead pastor at our church in our hometown. So now I'm pastor's wife role too. Yeah. So it's been fun to just kind of do different life seasons, specifically with Paul too. So and now I'm working as a holistic health practitioner, which was not on my radar at all a decade ago.
Yeah. Yes. I know. I love that. I love the journey. Obviously I have gotten to see the journey and be on it, but I just think it's incredible how God has so clearly guided your path. And, like you said, back with CTI Music Ministries. So for those of you who don't know, it was a worldwide missions organization. It was based out of Minnesota, and they would train these music ministry teams to go and spread the gospel worldwide through music. And so Brooke, where she met her husband when they went to Singapore, tell everybody, just really quick, what would you do on a trip going to Singapore? What were you guys doing to spread the gospel there?
Yeah, well, it was pretty unique with Singapore because we could not go into schools, other public places, and share the gospel. It was not allowed. So we had to kind of craft a program, like a music. So we did skits and we did some songs that were maybe more contemporary on the radio at that. Fun, interactive things, and just hung out with the kids at lunches. And that would then draw the kids in so that we could invite them to our big finale kind of gospel presentation, concert type of thing. And it was just a really special time because that way kids were able to then hear about Jesus, and because that's not the predominant religion in Singapore. And so we were able to partner along with Youth for Christ there and work with schools and just a lot of kids. And so it was a really just a really sweet moment season. We were there only for a month, but CTI would send teams like this, train them up and really use music as the vehicle, but really it was about being messengers of the gospel to other people. And music was just the vehicle that we were able to do that.
That's so cool. I love that. And music is so powerful. It's like it transcends even languages, it's such a powerful gift that God has given us. And I love it. You love it. We're maybe a little biased, but yeah. So let's back up a little bit. Why don't you talk just a little bit about, your journey, and you can begin where you would like to be, and I'll just interject in here and there in the conversation. But I think it's really valuable for people to hear a bit of your story, because it just correlates so strongly with people who are in ministry, and just really anybody though, and where we find our identity and all of that. So why don't you start back up to where you want to, and let's hear more about Brooke.
Well, so I grew up in a very musical home. Like I said, my parents are music teachers, my grandparents are music teachers. I just was surrounded by it, and I loved it. I mean, my first gig was I got bribed with Christmas presents to do a Christmas album when I was 3 years old.
And it's the cutest thing, like, on the face of the planet. I love it.
My parents said I just kept going through. I mean, if I was going to get some more presents, I got a present every song I sang. So I just, keep them coming.
Can you come with me into the studio the next time I record and bribe me when I get tired? Can you bring me presents? And then I'll reciprocate.
Yes, I'll bring you coffee and
and then I can reciprocate.
I know. So maybe that's where my love of music started, was associated with gifts. No, I would sit with my mom a lot at the piano, and we would just sing together, songs from church or just kids songs. And my family had a band growing up. So my mom and dad did a lot of songwriting for kids music. And so we had a family band. And so I always loved music. Something that I was really shy as a kid, but when I'd sing, I'd be I just had all this confidence because, people would say nice things and give me gifts. No. And my parents are extremely talented people. And so they were always, volunteering or being kind of out in the community. So people knew who they were. So, I'm Brian and Sherry's daughter. Yeah. That's who I am. And I was really proud of that. And so as I began, I mean, I was very involved in anything music related. And Andrea, that's how you and I met, was through, in 7th grade, right? Through Youth for Christ.
Yes. Oh man.
And we just clicked right away. It was just such a special time that we could bond over, music and really the Lord, and how cool we had that opportunity to have a little band of our own and go to local churches and take trips to North Dakota.
Yes.
Those were exciting times. And so, I really felt like my identity was music. I didn't have to be the cool kid in school because everybody knew Brooke as the girl who could sing or the girl who's really good at music. And so I kind of was well, that's who I am. That's my identity. And that's what I'll do with my life because that's all I've known. And it's what I feel confident in. And I was thinking back to when you and I went to Estes Park for Seminar in the Rockies. That was what it was called, right?
Yes. Now it's Immerse, and it's in Nashville. But yes, Seminar in the Rockies. That's right. So
Andrew and I both went there, and it was, I guess it was a competition, right? Yeah. Kind of like a singing, and so you could go solo or with a band. And so, Andrew, you and I both did our solo gigs, and then we did one together. And honestly, I think at that point of my life, 10th, 11th grade, I was my dream is to make it big with Andrea. We'll just be famous and sing together everywhere we go. Yeah. That's honestly what I was that's just what God has for me, or, that's all I knew. And I remember, and we've talked about this too, but when you moved on to the finales, did you get 3rd out of everything?
I think it was 4th. Yeah, I think it was 4th I don't remember.
Are you sure? I think I'll go with third. That sounds better. And, and I didn't move forward. And I remember at that moment thinking, like, is this not what I'm supposed to do with my life? Because, like, when you're younger, it's like, it's your world. And you were so sweet. I mean, you were so, like, feeling bad, like, you move forward. I'm like, no, like, I'm so happy for you. And, you had talked about our lives, walking different paths, but walking along together. And I remember that, just sitting with you in that hotel lobby building. And I remember thinking, okay, God must have other plans. Like, it's not the end of the world, but okay, maybe it's something else in music. So, I went on to college, and I was a vocal music education major, because really I didn't know what else I could do in life. And so I did it, and it was fine. And I really enjoyed college years, but I lost my voice, my sophomore year of college. And Andrew, as a music major, like, if you can't do the thing that you, like, are majoring in, you can't, if your hands don't work, if your piano performance, my voice didn't work, I was thinking, how am I gonna do this? Like, how can I be a music major if I can't even sing? Yeah. So I went to a doctor, and they scoped me, and they said, well, you need to not sing. Like, you need to not talk. You need to be on vocal rest for kind of indefinitely. And I had juries coming up, and I remember thinking, Lord, this is not, like, I don't know who I am. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Yeah. Like, I'm spending all this money to be a music major. What if I can't even graduate? And it was a really trying time with my relationship with the Lord, because I felt like a lot of my identity was stripped from me. But I remember being a part of a community group. So it was a bunch of people in college that were older and younger, and we loved being together. And there was a retreat we went on, and everybody kind of went around and just really invested in the person, whoever was kind of being highlighted, to just see qualities that they saw of them, like what God has gifted them in. And nobody mentioned anything about my music ability. And I remember somebody highlighted that. A lady in our group was like, Brooke, do you realize that everything that everybody is saying about you really had no connection to your music ability? And it was one of those moments where I was like, maybe there's so much more to me than just my musical talent. Yeah. And that started shifting, though I was like, yeah, but I'm still a music girl. That's, what I do. And, but the Lord was gracious to give me my voice back. So I was able to sing and, finish out my music degree. And then, through CTI, we went to Singapore, and I met my husband, Paul, which was, it was just a really great time in my life. And we got married a few years later, and I started getting sick on our honeymoon, like just feeling really kind of sick to my stomach. And I thought it was just butterflies from like all the excitement of getting married. Yeah. It just never went away. And so, and Andrew, this part of my journey really well, but I started this journey of just feeling awful all the time. And this anxiety just arose in with me really strongly. The unknown, feeling icky, dealing with constant pain and not knowing why. And I started, I was teaching music at the time. So as an elementary music teacher, I was teaching piano at your studio and voice, which was really fun to do that together. And I was working in a coffee shop.
That's right.
And so, and actually filling in as a youth leader too. So there's a lot of things going on that season. And my world started getting smaller, and I started thinking, I can't do the things that I used to do. And so I was, helping with worship, leading in different things. And I got to the point where I was so terrified of being in front of people because I never knew how I was going to feel, that I started withdrawing from any opportunity that I had to lead worship or sing or any of those kind of things, because it would bring on so much anxiety. And during that time, really started questioning, like, who am I and who did you create me to be, God? Because I feel like I'm failing in the ways that I was uniquely gifted in. And the health journey that I've been on is a long story in itself. That could be a whole long episode, but long story short, I found I have Lyme disease. And it came with a whole bunch of other health issues. And I'm still on that journey. But I started working for this music ministry that I was a part of with my husband, and I loved it. I got to be the vocal instructor, and I got to be the office manager. I liked both of those roles, having a little bit of creativity and then a little bit of like black and white numbers. Yeah. But during that season, when I was working there and I still wasn't feeling well, I realized maybe my passions were growing in another way that I've never seen them grow before. I started talking to other people with chronic illness. I started meeting other people who are suffering, and I just was heartbroken for them, thinking, how is it that all these people are suffering and it feels like there's not answers for them? And I started dabbling in, like, well, I don't know if I could be the one to help them, but maybe I could just learn more about stuff. So taking classes, and pretty soon my passion started shifting almost from music to health. And that was very weird for me. But because I think the Lord had orchestrated all these other seasons of just my identity and not taking away, but just reminding me that there's so much more to me than just my musical abilities, that when I got to this point where I was ready to maybe let go of my music stuff, I was okay with it because it's not what defined me anymore. And so I've now switched into this season of like full in holistic health practitioner and coming alongside of people. Sometimes I even forget that I still sing, because that doesn't go away. But it's just funny to me. If you would have asked me, 15 years ago too, like where I was now, I would have been like, you're absolutely crazy because I eat cupcakes like by the dozen at a time. Why?
I can't be a healthy person.
Sorry, that was a long bit of the story. I'm just trying to go through the last 36 years of my life in that. But
it was a dark and stormy night when I was born, and it's so Love good it. Though, because there's so much value in like being known and knowing others and knowing their journeys and knowing what other people have gone through, because there's different parts of your story that are going to resonate with so many of our listeners and with so many people, because it's real and it's vulnerable, and it's just a picture of God's grace, because he has just walked you through all of these seasons and just constantly reminded you, like, I made you for a purpose and you are not a talent. Like, that's not who you are. You were created for so many wonderful purposes, and he's gifted you in so many ways. And I love even sitting here and listening to you tell your story, even though I've been along on the journey for so much of it, because it's just such a powerful story. Before we get to the rest of today's episode, I want to tell you about an organization that is so special to me. Naturally Living Me, founded by Brooke Vasilko, provides a holistic approach in coming alongside of people who are looking to find root causes in their health issues. Through food testing, bioscans, nutrition, supplementation, and iridology, they individualize their care based on a person's unique needs. Their goal is to help others find freedom and healing in physical suffering so that they can become and live out who God has called them to be. And I personally have been so blessed by Brooke and the services that she has to offer. She truly cares about every single person that she works with. So if you'd like to learn more, you can visit www.naturallylivingme.net. And you can also email Brooke directly, Brooke, B-R-O-O-K-E, at naturallylivingme.net. And if you mention the podcast, she's going to give you a free supplement bottle. All right, back to our episode. remember riding in the car a few years ago down to the cities to a Carrie Job concert. And I mean, what was that? Maybe 5 years ago? I can't even remember exactly when it was, but it's when her Garden album came out. And we were chatting, and I remember you saying, I don't know if I'm gonna, I don't know if I'll go to school for this, or if maybe I can just like help connect other people to people who can help them. And I just remember, I don't remember exactly what I said or how I said it, but it was like, you're very capable. Like, I know you could do this, and now here you are, and you've done all the schooling and graduated, and you've got this amazing organization that helps people. And I love that. I love how God has so clearly crafted your story. Because like you said, 15 years ago, you would have been like, you're crazy. That's not going to happen. I'm not going to do that.
100%. Yeah. Thank you. That's really sweet words, Andrea. Well, and I do think the community that surrounds you and encouraging you, like you have been instrumental in my journey too, to be someone that's just, a listener or an encourager, or just through the hard stuff, because sometimes it's not easy. It's not like you don't walk the road of life and be like, everything was fabulous and it just all came into place immediately. It's not, sometimes it happens where God it feels like, wow, that was like really quick. And it was, I don't know, really specific answer to prayer. But I feel like most of the time it's just this journey of just like slowly moving forward, and then the people surrounding you being the hands and feet and the voice of Jesus, and that's what you've done for me too, to be that encourager, to say you can do it, because otherwise I'd probably be like, I can't do it. Like health coach, practitioner, like that's not what I went to school for. How can I be used in that way? But I really think it's the passions, and not to like, for all those years that I was doing music, like I truly believe that the Lord was using me in those ways too. But it's just that reminder that like our identity is, like you said, not in our talent or what we can do or what we can offer, but our identity is that we're purely just like daughters and sons of Jesus. And that's it. Yeah. Like, we don't have to do anything to earn that. We are just loved just because we are who we are. Yeah. And I think of like a parent-kid relationship. I'm not a parent. You probably understand this too, but like, you don't love your kids because they did something great for you. Yeah. You love them just because they are who they are. So it's not like they could do things. Maybe there's things that make you irritated or, more proud or different things, but like your love for them never changes. And like, they are your kid. Like that's just their identity, not because they did anything. So that's just the reminder, maybe an encouragement to others too, to say like, whatever it is that you feel like your identity is rooted in, like your value is most treasured in just being rooted in a son and a daughter of Jesus. So
amen.
It's something I'm still learning. I don't have it all figured out, and I still am on that journey of being okay with that.
Yes. Yeah, totally. And, I think for people who listen to our podcast, I mean, they're from all walks of life, but a lot of people are in ministry or, worship ministry or serving on a church worship team. And I think for people in the area of music, for some reason with arts, it's harder for us to not be defined and identify with like our skill or our gift, or in ministry in general, just like, this is who I am. This isn't just a job. This is like I pour my whole life into this. And so I just love how God is so gracious with us when we allow him and we hold it like open-handedly. And that's what I've seen you do, is like hold it with open hands and like, God, where do you want me to be? And where do you want me to go? And he's like, really? Okay, well, actually, I want you to do this. And for you to be willing to step into that is just such a beautiful thing. And yeah, you might have had to say goodbye to some things that it was hard, or close some chapters that were difficult, but it's so much better on the other side. And so I would love it if you would share just a little bit from like the ministry lens too, like how do you feel like this has impacted you from a ministry standpoint, but also for people who are listening? Like, how can they be encouraged? What can they take away and try to apply to their lives, regarding just our identity and how we hold it open-handedly and loosely? Does that make sense?
I think so. Yeah. Correct me if I answer wrongly.
That's so funny. We're like the same person. Just tell me if it's wrong. Just fix it if it's wrong.
I'm not a 1 or anything on the Enneagram, so you and I were similar. Coming from like a ministry perspective, like I think I don't know. I think for me now, I come alive when I am coming alongside of people who are hurting, just in a different way, like physically with pain. Like ministry, it can look in different forms, but I found that the ministry God's calling to me, at least right now, is to come alongside of the people who are not feeling well physically. And what I see in those people, it is a ministry, because I have a tissue box in here, because more often times not, this is in my office, that people come, and it's we're so connected, like with the physical to the spiritual to the emotional too, that it's all encompassed. When you're hurting in one area, you're probably hurting in another. And so it's just really meeting people and listening and coming alongside of them and loving on them. And so, whereas that looked maybe when I was doing more music, outward things, it was ministering to people through being a vessel of worship, of helping people to enter into God's presence. And now it's just entering people into God's presence, but maybe in my office at home, and helping them meet this God that really loves them and cares for them and created their bodies so uniquely that like he knows just intimately how he created them to be. And so it's a different perspective of ministry, but I know that it can happen in so many facets of our life. Yeah.
And so what I love about that, and what all of our listeners can be encouraged with by that, is that, maybe you're walking through a season, you out there who are listening, of change. And maybe you're walking through a season like Brooke has, where everything that you thought you knew and you thought you were created to do is changing. Maybe you're transitioning to a different position. Maybe you're not going to work in a church anymore, and you're getting a job, somewhere that is different than anything you've ever known. And what happens in those types of situations is we realize where our identity lies, right? Like you're saying with your life, when there have been seasons where things have been taken away, your voice or your health, and it's like, well, who am I without these things? And so for those of you listening out there, wherever God plants you is your ministry, right? And that sounds maybe like, well, okay, sure. Like that's what we said in Sunday school. But if that's like neither here nor there, if you can implant that in the depths of your soul, that's going to be a firm foundation to carry you through your life, because it's true. Whether you're at home with kids, whether you are working in an office, whether you're serving in the biggest mega church and, visually impacting thousands, God has planted you there for a reason. And when we say open-handedly, like, this is my ministry, I think that's so God honoring. And I just love that, that's how you are walking through life. And I know that you don't always feel like you have that attitude, but you do. I've seen it, I've seen it in everything that you do. And that's why I believe God is blessing what you are doing, because you're holding it open-handedly and just saying, okay, wherever you plant me, that's my ministry. And that's just so powerful.
Thank you, Andrea. It's really sweet. So that's my heart's desire, is just to say, okay, use me, God, in this area. I've realized to stop fighting it because at the end of the day, like, I'm not in control. And so if he's placed me in this position, then I want to take advantage of that and run with it, even in fear. or feeling inadequate. Because that's another thing too. When you move from what you feel like you know, and God's calling you into this new season, can be scary because you're like, I'm more comfortable in that other, because I knew what to expect and I knew my strengths. It's not fun to walk into something where you're like, I don't think I'm that good at it, but that's when he can really use in our weakness to say, yeah, but it's not about you.
Right. So, and then he equips you in ways you never dreamed possible, and just, it's like, okay, I know this was you, Lord, because now you have, all of this new knowledge and experience and training and opportunity to help people in a way that you never dreamed possible or even imagined would be a part of your story. And I just think that's incredible. Well, Brooke, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been such a sweet conversation. I'm grateful for you and for your encouragement in my life, and that you took the time to encourage our listeners. So thank you so much.
Thank you, friend.
All right, everybody. Well, that is another episode of the OVerflow Worship Podcast wrapped up. And thank you all so much for following along on the journey. And if you are enjoying the content that you're hearing, we would love it if you would leave a comment on podcasts on Apple or wherever you listen, and follow us, because that's how we get the content out to you faster. And it also helps us reach other people as well. Thank you so much. And we'll talk to you next time.
You've been listening to the OVerflow Worship Podcast. If you enjoy our podcast, please take a moment and leave us a 5-star rating and a written review, which helps us reach more people. New episodes are released every other Monday. So until next time, thank you for listening.